Hello, hello. Welcome to another Monday night. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late. Let's get Instagram rolling here.
Yep,
Uh,
definitely. Well, welcome to YouTube. Welcome to our three Facebook pages, to Twitch, Rumble, two Instagram pages, uh, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome, 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 everyone. And welcome, Becky. How are you? How's Monday?
it's a good Monday. Long weekend, but a good Monday. Got good news that my daughter was accepted into her nursing program. So
Oh,
that
yay.
yes, she'll end up going into that. It's like an accelerated program. Um, so proud of her and excited. It's been, a long road and a lot of challenges through the way, but she's persevering and continuing on and she'll do great things. So
That's good news. I didn't even know that. You didn't tell me that today.
I hadn't talked to you this afternoon. She called me this afternoon. So
Ah, gotcha. Yes, we do talk all the time, so
yeah,
yeah, and then we get on here and we talk, so
right.
yeah, why not? And then we do a blog, and then we just talk, talk, talk.
I know. Always something going in our lovely world.
Well,
And so it's fun. I
so
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, so for those of you tuning in, yes, I am wearing blue blocking glasses. It is hard to see my eyes from the reflection of the light. And Becky is really red right now because she's in it setting in a red light. So I wanted to clear that up because we always get those questions. People say, "We can't see your eyes, Sherry." And it's like, well, you're right. And I mean, I could, but I'd rather wear my blue blocking glasses. So,
Absolutely, which kind of goes into the discussion that we planned for tonight of what is health, right? What does health look like to you? So pose that question to anyone that is listening here on YouTube or over on Instagram, any of the socials. Feel free to put that in the chat. What is health? What does health look like to you? It maybe that's, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. What does it end up and look like? How do you align your journey, your process um with what health looks like? And so we'll start by, kind of how society and how individuals define it. How do you define health, Sherry?
well, I define it a number of different ways. Obviously, physical health is probably the first thing that comes to my mind. But through my healing journey, I would tend to say that mental health, I've learned, is right up there, just as important as the physical health. And then I would say lifestyle choices, preventative care, um, sleep health, um, health education. Oh my gosh, I've been through
Mm.
down so many rabbit holes of finding, researching, reading in the past 3.5 years, almost four now. That it's been crazy, but and even, and I'm going to say it, sexual health, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So,
The taboo. Oh no.
ooh, I just said the not, yeah, but it is true because all of it is encompassed. So that's what I would say it is.
And you're right. When we end up when we look at or when I look at, right, when I'm doing coaching, when I'm talking to my clients in regards of health, that comes on various things, right? We're not just looking at markers, we're not just looking at, different metrics, but we're looking at this balance, this state of,
Hmm.
harmony, I guess, in the environment we're in, right? Because everyone is different. And so
Hmm.
you can't just have a blanket approach of what health is, right? You and I live in two separate, environments. And so that's going to end up and look different or, need to be tailored different. Um my outdoors, right? My circadian rhythm is different than yours. My seasonal eating is different than yours. And
Hmm.
so what is this health? Obviously anyone that knows me knows, first and foremost, sleep and circadian.
Mhm.
That's just kind of a given. And then navigating the nutritional space the way that best fits you.
Mhm.
Um, for you finding health in a nutritional and metabolic balance. Everyone is going to be different. Everyone's got different health as far as metabolic flexibility. Being able to switch between the fat burning, the glucose burning. I burn fat better than um, some people that are fasting or some people that are insulin resistant, leptin resistant, even, so it doesn't necessarily look like what society has, a picture of health, right? Any
Mhm.
pictures that we end up when we see on social media, or pictures that we end up when we see, models on the runway,
Mm.
is that what society views as health, is being a certain size or certain demographic or,
Right.
body type?
Right.
It's definitely a question to, pose out there, because the difference between looking healthy and being healthy, right, is
Mhm.
definitely another one. Um, when I was stopping and thinking on my own journey, because when I was dealing with thyroid issues, I had, thinning hair, right? My eyebrows, um, I always joke with my daughter that I never have to pluck my eyebrows, because when I had thyroid issues, that was one of the things, I would lose, right? Um, so the difference in that looking healthy and being healthy, it's not necessarily single number body fat percentage. And you and I both have talked with clients in regards of losing cycles,
Mhm.
right? They end up and they get too low in body fat percentage, especially as women, and they start to lose those cycles. And that's not healthy.
No.
So, again, what does health look like? Right? What is the difference in being healthy? Is it muscle mass? Is it a certain body image? Now, that kind of goes in back into the mental side of things, right? When we talk about body image, because the way that we look and the way our mind thinks we look can be two different things.
Oh, yeah. How we can zero in on those problem areas that we think are problems. And if I said, "Hey, Becky, blah, blah, blah," and you would probably look at me and go, "I don't know what you're even talking about." Right? Like that
Mhm.
kind of, yeah, well, you had a post this weekend talking about body image. You had an adorable sweater on that you posted, but it surprised me what you said about the sweater you were wearing.
Yeah, it was just a regular pullover sweater. So anyone that, hasn't seen the post, it was like a bluish purplish sweater. I I always wore cardigans. I mean, you've known me for several years. I always wear my hoodies, or I end up and I wear my cardigans, because wearing a pullover sweater always made me feel boxy, right?
Mhm.
Bulky, boxy, whatever you want to end up and call it. And I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't think it suited me, no matter, whether I put it with jeans, whether I put it with leggings, whether I just always felt like I had, no torso, no structure, right?
Mhm.
No shape. There we go. Um, and I was always in that habit. I would always shove them to the back of my closet, because we are our own worst critic, right? And I would
Mhm.
always criticize myself instead of appreciating that, hey, I get to wear this, I should wear this, I could wear this. It was oh my gosh, right? Um, but that's been part of the process, and part of the journey too, is continuing to work on that mindset. There's been a lot that has been dug up and uncovered and worked through and still working through.
Mhm.
There's parts even, you know about it, but there's parts of, the past that again have come up and need to be worked through a little bit more. Um, I'll leave it at that. Um, but that transpires into other mental blockages, right? In other
Yes.
ways.
Yeah.
So
And
that's where
you and I've had that discussion about the mental health and how we view our bodies, and
Mhm,
that's why a little bit ago I said the sexual health, because how I feel about my body, um, it's like, you know what, I would just rather my husband just not touch me on the stomach, right? And he doesn't see it that way, but it's because it's a problem area for me and I'm self-conscious about it. So, it's the mental health aspect that gets in the way of other things, right?
absolutely. And I think we all end up and have those areas,
Yes.
right? That we don't want touched, or we maybe end up in, you know, shiver shudder if, our spouse or significant other. And again, that kind of goes back
Mhm.
to what, health isn't a one size fits all, right? And
Right.
what are signs that we are thriving in our body? Is it that we're losing, that fat mass? Is it more just good digestion, stable energy, mental clarity, great sleep? What are signs that we look for when we're practicing this? And I think for me, it involves all of the above, right? Not that
Mhm.
every day has to be perfect or that we got to strive for that perfection,
Right.
but it's definitely a progress and consistency.
It's funny because the sleep health part of it
Mhm.
is something that, um, it just I never understood it when I first heard it, when I started down this journey. It's like, "Oh, you need to, get good sleep, and you need to," and I'm like, yeah, how do we do that? Like, give me a break, because if I could shut my mind off, or if I could shut down enough to fall asleep, or if I don't wake up in the middle of the night because I have to use the facilities, whatever it is, right? Um, I start thinking about, oh, I got to put this on the grocery list, or what. I never understood it. Now I fiercely protect my sleep, fiercely protect it. And I get it now, but it's taken me a long time to yeah, get down that, uh, to learn about it. And in fact, I had wrote a blog post,
Mhm.
about, nature's ultimate healer, sleep. And again, it just what your body can do when it's getting good rest, and how it, um, sets up your immune system and chronic conditions. And, if you're fighting obesity and diabetes and heart disease and mental disorders, depression and anxiety, um, sleep deprivation, it definitely impairs all of that. Like, and, t- you know, getting in that dark environment, wearing a sleep mask if you have to. What I'm wearing now, blue blocking glasses, what you're setting in right now. We're signaling to our bodies that, okay, your cortisol needs to come down now, and we need to let the melatonin, our natural melatonin, I ain't taking melatonin supplements, natural melatonin to rise. So in about 8:30, I start to feel "Oh, I'm getting tired," and we've been on meetings in the BNC community, and it's like, night," like, I can feel me going. It is
Well, you
so
can tell those of us that are coaches in the community, because we all end up and we have that time, right,
Yeah.
where it's our circadian alignment. And that's because one will start to sign off of got to start my evening routine, right? And then
Yeah.
someone else is like, it's my bedtime, night night.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we're signing off. But again, that's respecting that circadian rhythm. And that's where when you're looking at, again, what is health, right? Put it in the comments, guys, for those of you that are watching, what is health for
Absolutely.
you? But when we look at it from the conventional side and the holistic natural side, right? Um, when you dig that down into, and I never dug deep enough into the role that it all played until I got certified in the quantum space. And then I dug down into that circadian rhythm and light exposure and eating and how it all played a role, right? Of like stress management, right? No one ever said when I was dealing with my thyroid issues, hey, you need to end up and,
Yes.
in order to heal your hormones, because I had a hysterectomy, you have to balance your stress response because
Mm-hmm.
your adrenals are taxed and your thyroid is, also suffering with your Hashimoto's. And
Excuse me.
no worries. No one ended up and said a word of, hey, go put your feet on the ground or, do some breath work,
Right.
tapping, make sure that your gut is healthy. Don't be putting, bananas in your gut or, you know, whatever the food is living in Nebraska, right? No one ever ended up and said that. It wasn't until I took like you were talking, right? Going down the rabbit holes, going down the educational side of things and learned the influence that, again, the environment plays on us, right?
Right.
Toxins and EMFs, and, no, we're not going to be able to outrun it. Sorry to break
Right.
it to you. We may end up and lose, a lot of listeners there, but sorry, you're not going to end up and be able to constantly outrun the cell phone towers or the satellites or, whatever. But how can we end up and balance our body to live in that harmony to find health in the environment we're in?
Correct.
Um, and that's where, like you were saying, the circadian rhythm, respecting the light exposure, blocking the toxic light, right? All of that is playing a role in our transformational story.
Yeah. I spent all weekend outside. We worked on our property all weekend, and I can tell you, I got some good light. Right, I was out there all day. Now I did get a wind burn yesterday, which I found interesting. And we had Charles Mayfield on a couple weeks ago, and he has the Pharaoh Skincare, which is the tallow, the beef, or I mean pork, pig, oink.
Pig.
There we go. And so I put some on my cheeks, and my forehead, and last night after I got out of the shower, and it helped it's like it's gone. But yeah, it was interesting. But just like somebody would have told me, a year ago, oh, you're going to be putting fat on your face.
Well, let's end up to break that down. You're going to end up and be working out on the property. You're going to
Hmm.
end up and be digging in the dirt with a
Hmm.
tractor, and you're going to be putting pig fat on your face.
Yes.
You
Who
would have
am
been
I?
like, I am doing what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. When we sold our house a year ago, never in my wildest dreams would I own overhauls and, I mean, like, who knew we were gonna be digging in, like you said, we're putting a driveway in. You guys, I was it last not this past weekend, but the weekend before, my Apple Watch registered that I did 11 flights of stairs, and it's like, there is no stairs on our property. Oh, so the 500 bazillion times that I've bent over and picked up sticks and big chunks of root balls of mesquite trees and just and flung them, into piles, and oh, it registered. I did 11 flights of steps there, but I'm getting movement, right? And that's how I'm looking at it. And let me tell you what? when we get done for the day, I'm tired. And that's where I know I've done a good day's work.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
speaking of movement, you've been really incorporating movement.
Yeah, that's one thing that I did have to take a break from, right? Um, I had to heal, right? I was not able to spend time in the gym, time, my time was outside walking. My time was getting that, you know, natural light, getting the grounding, getting all that, parasympathetic side to calm the body, to realize, for the body to realize, hey, we're safe, right? We're safe to start this healing. And as far as the health for me, it was, you're pre-diabetic, right? You've got an A1C of 6.0. You're dealing with Hashimoto's, you're dealing with asthma, you're dealing with, cardiac issues. For me, health was, let's fix this. I don't care. I do care, but I don't care, right? What size of jeans I wear. Because it's been kind of a journey. I took that approach initially because there was a lot of influencers in spaces.
Mm,
Um, Dogmatic tribes in regards of, do this, do fasting, do this, do, complete elimination. um and I fell prey to them, right? I didn't know then what I know now.
hmm
And so I thought it was, push, kind of what we talked about with you with fasting, right? Push harder, push longer.
Yeah.
um but then I had to take that step back because it did end up in backfire. And that's one thing that a lot of us don't talk about enough,
Right.
is how it ended up, backfiring. It worked until it didn't.
hmm
Um, and then I had to, do more of this natural practice stuff and my red light. And I took a break from the gym. Um, I am able to now get back in there with a plan, with a structure, but I'm literally in there 20, 30 minutes. That's it. I don't
Yeah.
spend, an hour anymore. I may end up this summer going for, a little bit longer of a walks out in, my hills, around my house here, but I'm not killing it with the cardio or the resistance training with hours in the gym.
hmm
I'm making use of my time effectively to get what I am seeking. And again, that's, incorporating that type of stuff. Yes, we need muscle mass for longevity. We need, you know, um bone structure. The more that we're able to add some resistance, our bones are going to get stronger. We're going to gain the muscles, there's a lot to adding resistance. There's also a lot to adding the cardio for endurance, heart health, all of that side of things, right? So yes, I have been getting back in there, in a structured. I put my plan together, right? And I'll change the plan, right? It's got to progress with me. It's not just this is what I'm doing, day in, day out. I'm keeping track of how fast I go, how much I lift, it'll be a progression thing. But I
hmm
didn't just go in thinking, well, so and so that I see on, Facebook or Instagram is lifting this, I should be lifting.
Yeah.
It was, okay, you're a newbie, you're a beginner. Um you can start with this, and I've already in the last 4 weeks increased. So,
Yeah. I don't
it's
know why
it's
I
a
got
slow
a
process.
tickle in my throat. I apologize.
No
Mm,
worries. But, and part of that is also not only utilizing the nature side of it, but utilizing some of the tools too. Um, you
Yes.
know, kind of like what's sitting at my feet right now is, well, it's like under my desk, but it's on the floor, is my red light.
Yes.
Sure, I can, get these beneficial waves or spectrum of light from the sun, right? I go out and I get daybreak and I get sunrise and all of that to get these spectrums of light or this lux intensity of light. And but there's also on that biohacking side, there are benefits of having some of these things that help with our modern lifestyles.
Yeah. Speaking of, so I found out a couple weeks ago, my cousin, she picked running back up and she was running and she hit her toe on a raised, part of the sidewalk and face planted and right in front of a hospital. Go figure. I know, right? It was like, oh, well, there we go. So, of course, she went in there. Her face was pretty beat up. And she has a friend of hers that is a chiropractor. And he had a handheld red light laser. Um, he did that with her face. He even used a neuro type thing on her head and lobes for her brain because I mean she hit her head, her face. It helped with the inflammation, the scar tissue, the lymphatic. Like her lip was just huge, and she sent me pictures today, and this was it's a violet and red light laser wavelengths, 405 nanometers, and 365, 335, she said. It's a low level laser. Um, but from she sent me pictures today of when the accident, what her face looked like, and then of course then she got the black eye and everything. So that was the next picture, and her lip was just huge. And she sent me then, I think it was a recent picture. I don't know if it was today, but very recent. You can't even tell. Now I'm sure she can, right? She's going to say, oh, this is still pinkish, but that red light, I believe, helped her out. And so she asked her friend if like medical doctors use it for like scarring and pain and injuries or burn injuries. And he said that most hospitals and doctors get paid to prescribe meds by the big pharmaceutical companies. So, in other words, here's a pill,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nobody would have said, hey, let's get some red light, some infrared, like let's get that on you. And it really, she looks amazing. She again, we're hard on ourselves. I know she would, if she's listening, she's probably like, no, but no, like it's night and day difference, huge. And so, but that's a huge benefit with the red light.
Well, and that's one thing that many people don't, think about, right? Like I said, I've got a red light panel down there. I've got my red light face mask. They think about it for like the muscle recovery side of things,
Hmm.
but they don't end up and look at it from a skin side of things. I used my red light when I was on a coaching session um, prior to this, and for my thyroid, it helped with my hypothyroidism to reduce that oxidative stress. It helps the mitochondria, right? So if someone is feeling run down, right, it helps to boost the ATP. It helps fuel that cellular energy side of things. There's a lot more to some of these natural things. Now, yes, you can end up and get a device, but
Hmm.
morning sun exposure also has natural red and infrared light. So simply getting outside has benefits
Free,
too. Yeah, right?
free. Yeah.
You you don't have to buy a device. And that's one of the things, that I was explaining is starting with just some of these foundational things. You don't have to buy the gadgets, and gizmos, right? Or the pills and the potions that a lot of the conventional, try to push on you, like you said, that and it's no fault of theirs. That's what they're taught in school, and that's, they have little salesmen that come to the office and, give samples to give out, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
sad.
and I see we've got some comments here. It says healing starts in the gut, and then they asked carnivore, and then everyone is in different stages, never compare, and then not enough in the wintertime. I miss the sun.
So there is still light in the winter. Of course, I don't know where they're from.
Mhm.
So yes, if you are far north, we do end up and lose a lot of that light in the wintertime, but the light's still there.
Mhm.
Um, I acclimate to the wintertime. I still go out and I do my cold exposure. I do my sunlight, do my grounding in the wintertime. Yes, even when it was below zero, I was outside. Um, the light is still there, and that's one of the biggest things is transitioning and also realizing that what we do in the summer is not what we end up when we do in the wintertime. The winter is more of that rest, restore, repair. Um, so being just like our food should not be the same consistent, going back to your thing with the healing starts in the gut. Um, protein, yes, but other, carb sources, natural whole food carb sources, should not end up and be the same. So what grows under a certain light should not necessarily be consumed in the wintertime because that's not the light that we are receiving from that
Mhm.
food. And so it does end up and make a difference. And that plays a role in people that have leaky gut as well, is they try to, I mean, how many times do you hear someone that's like, I eat, chicken and broccoli, or I eat a chicken salad, and it's the middle of the winter.
Mhm.
Um, it's like, they don't transition their foods.
Yeah.
They don't get the gut diversity. They don't get the microbes the gut needs in the wintertime. Also, we just had the meat, fat, and ferments challenge, the 90-day challenge, and we were incorporating those fermented foods in there. But
Mhm.
there's definitely a difference. As far as the wintertime, though, I get it. I miss the sun, although I got news that it is becoming summer, right? I made that post this morning. I think I put it in my stories. If I didn't, I'm so far behind on posting today that maybe I'll post it tomorrow. But I anyone that is consistent, right, with
Right.
these natural routines will start to
Yes.
end up and observe their surroundings. And my son, the sun, not my son, the sun in the sky, is transitioning back to the north. So many people that watch your sunrise, some don't even realize that it moves from, north to south. Yes, it always comes up in the east, but depending on what season we're in, it will transition from, north to south. And so in the wintertime, it's, further in my southern direction. Um, but yeah, it's already starting to move because it's when I go out in the mornings, it's starting to be behind my shed, and summertime it'll be clear up over coming up behind my barn. So it transitions. Our UVB window just, I think, this last week become back open. No, the index isn't nearly high enough to, really produce a lot of that vitamin D or have to even worry about, sun exposure yet at this point, but it's still there. And start now. Don't wait until, middle of summer to get out there.
Right. Right. And believe it or not, consistency with that, you'll find you don't burn.
Hmm.
Yeah. Little known unknown fact, or maybe you knew that. I don't know. I know you knew it, Becky, but our audience.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I didn't burn. I didn't burn. No, I take that back. I did because we were out when we first got the property. Um, we were out there all day one day, and yeah, I did, but that was it. That was like, but I can promise you it ain't gonna happen this summer because I've been still consistent um, with that. But yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, the gut definitely with the meat, the meat, fat, and fermented foods that we've just done, which I will continue to incorporate. I like it. I like how it makes me feel. And then the question was carnivore question mark. Uh, yes, I personally am meat based, but I have learned that I have to have carbs. And I'm not talking about potato chips. I'm talking about good carbs because my hormones and my thyroid uh, depend on it, and my brain. And we need good carbs. And when I went to strict carnivore, I tanked my body to the point that now I'm having to take some medication to get me back to where I can get optimal and then start working my way off of it. But while I'm doing that, I'm not just taking the medicine's word for it. I'm doing all the beyonds, right? I'm doing the red light. I'm doing the sun. I'm doing stress management, yoga, movement, you know, sleep. It to me when I had to go on the medication was a huge wake up call for me personally. That yeah, I may go out and do some grounding or walk barefoot. Oh, forgot today. Oh well, it that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore because that mind body whole thing is all connected.
Mhm.
And if I'm going to heal, continuing my step by healing step, you know, this is what I'm have to do because everybody is different. Everybody is in a different stage. But it's funny because I hear people talking about things and it makes me circle, oh, like, oh, I'm fasting harder. Uh, you know, yeah. Or what's another one you hear that people fight that and you think, "Oh,
Well, they end up and start to eliminate further, right? Or
mhm,
restrict further,
yep,
right? It's not always about eating less or eating less of certain food groups,
mhm,
right? And that's where, like you said, you've added whole food carbs in. Yes, I did carnivore for a while. And I felt good
mhm,
until I didn't.
mhm,
Right. And that's where, like I said, I had to end up in transition. Even when we talked to Dr. Baker, that was one of the things that I had talked to Sean about was transitioning and adding reincorporating foods because there were things that weren't progressing. Where now, yes, I am still animal based, right?
mhm,
Prioritizing my animal proteins and healthy fats, but I'm adding other foods in for gut support, immune function, thyroid, creating that metabolic flexibility with macronutrient cycling. You and I were discussing earlier because I had stepped away from tracking for
mhm.
longest time.
Yeah,
And I had made a comment about, oh, I'm eating, my so many
6
ounces
6
of
ounces.
6 ounces of my chicken, um, because I am, structuring it also with the workout routine. Does it
Mhm,
make a difference if, I eat certain foods on resistant training days, strength training days versus the cardio days? Does the nutrient dense foods make a difference how I structure those? But yeah, it's always going to be a animal based protein focus with healthy fats. The fats may end up in transition, right? Some days I may be super high fat and doing what our video is called beef crack or my whipped tallow sticks, right? I made
right.
those, I think, what, 3, 4 years ago at this point. Um, Not to say that I won't incorporate those, but I'm also incorporating other things. And Hydration is another one for me. Making sure, that I'm getting
Yep.
minerals added back in, my
Yep.
Shilajit, my fulvic and humic acid, because
Yep.
we don't get that from nature, right? Nature can. So yes, I push back in regards of, supplements and pills and potions and that, right? Because I end up and I push back in supplementing something that our body, if we do the foundational things such as energy, right?
Mhm.
I don't need a drink to give me a morning boost. I don't need a drink to end up and put me to sleep at night. I don't need a supplement, aka melatonin, to help me sleep. I just need to end up and structure my lighting different. So working on those type of things, that's what I end up and I push back. I've had the boxes. I've had, way more than what I ended up and needed in my fair share of time. Um, but I do also understand the fact of making sure that for me, my body, what my body needs in regards of that electrolyte balance, um, is going to be different than someone that needs maybe a higher sodium.
Mhm.
I still do my structured water. I put my water when it's nice. Can't right now because we're expected to now get somewhere between 6 and 10 inches of snow instead of 5 to 7.
Oof. Please
Yeah.
keep that out of Texas, okay?
So, sitting my water outside, but there's other ways of structuring water and my hydrogen water. So,
Yeah.
all of those type of things, my minerals, my electrolytes, my hydrogen, all of that, getting that in there, is how my nutritional balance is going to end up and look, how my gut
Well,
health is going to be.
it's funny you say that because we in Texas are gonna dip down, below freezing. So, again, I can't set my water out either. And what if for those that have are joined or listening, like, "What do you mean? What are you guys talking about setting your water out?" So Becky and I both, solarize our water. So we have glass containers that we set outside, usually for 24 hours, at a time. Obviously, we can't do that. There are huge benefits when it comes to solarized water. And again, guess what? It's free, right? It's not another gadget I have to buy. Um, and so that's what Becky's talking about. And go ahead and tell them some of the benefits of solarized water. I could, when I first got on solarized water, I felt a difference.
It truly does end up and make a difference. So there's, again, kind of going back to the light, right? When we end up and so our body is a water being, right? We end up and we have water. It's just the water inside of us is different than the water that we are consuming. So when we end up and we consume this structured water or this aligned water, our body holds on to this hydration a lot better, to the point where there's different ways of solarizing. Some ancient practices will actually use color to structure water, but when we end up and we use that natural, photobiomodulation is actually what it's called, but natural sunlight for layman's terms, to sit the water outside, it increases that bioavailability of energy potential. It infuses the light saturation into the water, the light frequencies, and we are able to basically better absorb them. It increases our charge, it increases our structure, it increases that exclusion zone water. It helps to support, the cellular hydration. Like I said, this gelatinous type water that is all through the inner matrix of our body, um, it's not just about drinking water, right? You can drink dead water or basic
Mhm.
tap water has so many chemicals and pesticides and everything else in it. But when we end up when we consume, solarized water, it's not as depleting. So many people tend to drink a lot of water because they're thirsty, especially diabetics or pre-diabetics. will drink a lot of water. And it's because the body isn't holding on to this hydration. It doesn't have the minerals, it doesn't have the structure. It's just completely um, depleting. And you can actually get sick off of it.
Mhm.
But to really look at optimizing your water, you set the water outside. Yes, I have blue bottles, I have regular, ball jar, glass jars. I have some different bottles that I use as well. So any of this, works. The blue bottles help with more of like calming, anti-inflammatory. There's also scribing. The bottles that I have scribing on them, so it's like etched into the glass itself. And one of those is the Ho'oponopono phrase, being, to summarize that, it's being thankful for the water. There's another one that has, a different emblem on it, if you will. And it's just creating this positive energy in the hydration side of things. So just to support the different processes of the body with proper hydration and energetic healing. Because like I said, when we have electronics, for instance, right? Love y'all, wouldn't be connected to y'all if it wasn't for electronics. But that can be very draining. It can also be hard for um, our microbiome, and there's just a lot with our environment, and this solarized water helps with all of those principles that we're looking at to create that
Mhm.
health, right? What is health?
What is
that
health?
is
Yep.
that is part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever, Dr. Emoto, is that how you say his name?
Saramoto.
Yeah. He wrote a book. It's a real easy book to read, but it talks about how water takes on different shapes and the structure of it. It's very fascinating book to read for sure. Um, but I ended up getting a copper tenor ring, and so I actually have it sitting around my bottles right now, and that is structuring my water without having to put it outside in the and below
Harmonizing it.
harmonizing it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to it, and I know
Hmm.
there's probably a lot of people that are, watching, that are thinking, "Okay, this is, woo woo," but
Woo. Yeah.
it's really not when you end up and you start to research it and look into it, in regards of harmonizing the environment around us.
Yeah.
And you would truly end up and see a difference in how your body feels in those, cases too.
Oh, most definitely. And I mean, everybody's definition of what is health is different, right? What is
Mhm.
important to you? We have a few more minutes before we wrap up here. If anybody wants to put in the chat what your definition of health is, what is important to you, let us know. We just kind of went down the list of what is important to us and why. So,
Absolutely. And that's where also the community comes in, right? We end up when we
yes.
support people in the community in reclaiming their health and what that looks like for them. So it's definitely not, health isn't a one size fits all formula. It's all about listening to your body,
Yes.
finding what works within your environment, your lifestyle.
Hmm.
Yes, we can provide education, we can provide accountability and coaching, but there's no one diet, one method that is perfect. The key of it all is consistency, adaptability, and kind of going back to one of my phrases that I've used over and over is reboot, reset, refocus.
Yeah.
We're constantly learning, so being willing to reboot what you were told, right? Because none of us grew up, right? None of us were taught this and how to,
Right.
thrive in our world that we live in right now.
Right.
Um, and how to fix the body that was, it wasn't your fault, right? And I'm talking to listeners, not necessarily you, but it wasn't your fault that your body got where it's at. You know?
Yeah.
Um, so realizing that and letting individuals help you, letting people support you, and growing and moving and fine tuning that. It can be done. It's not I too thought, this was my destiny. Genetics was my,
Right.
I was gonna end up and be sick. I was gonna be a brittle diabetic because that's, what my father was. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna end up with, high cholesterol because that's a family trait, right? I thought all of this. And it wasn't until I took my journey into my hands that things changed.
Oh, speaking of that, so just a quick story. So my poor husband went to the doctor, and well, he had gotten labs done in December, and the doctor basically said, "Well, we're not going to prescribe you the testosterone that he's on till you come back and rerun these labs." So he looked, and one of the lab markers was point 0.5 higher than what it had previously been. And so, of course, my husband and I researched that. Well, it all depends on which lab you're going through, on what the range is, right? So, even understanding that alone is important to even know what labs to ask for, what you're looking at, that because you're still looking at sick people. You're looking at the average, and this country's sick, right? So your
Mm,
average, where my average of my testosterone is this number, optimal is like way higher than that. So, but anyway, when my husband explained that to the doctor, he said, "I don't care." And my husband, from being married to me probably way too long, said, "We're done." And he literally told the doctor, "I better not get a bill for this." And the doctor's like, "Oh, you most definitely will." And it's like, that's sad when, and you and I've talked about this, about how they
mm,
hold you hostage. And I call that a subscription. You just signed up for a subscription. If you got to keep going back because, oh, come back in, 3 weeks and let's see how you're feeling, that's a subscription, right? Like, and I've heard, who says that? Dr. Ken Berry says that a lot. But it was, like you said, it's taking things and understanding it into your own hands. I'm not saying don't go to doctors at all. Please do not read into that. The but the fact is you've got to find somebody that's going to work with you. I told a doctor one time, "You're either a part of my team or you're not a part of my team." And she pushed back. She wouldn't run the labs I wanted run because she was the doctor and I didn't know any better.
mm,
And I said, "Well, then that tells me you're not a part of my team." And of course, then she took her glasses off and she tried to, calm me down. And I said, "No," and we're done. And then I went to stand up and she goes, "So do you want a flu shot?" And I turned around, looked at her, and I said, "You really didn't just say that to me, did you?" And I walked out. So, never to go back again. But it, that's the thing, right? You want somebody that's going to work with you, not against you. You know your body. Um, that is just, I'm very passionate about that part of it, is we know what our bodies feel like. If I tell you, Becky, like, "Oh, I'm depressed," right? You're
mhm.
not going to say, "Oh, sorry." You
Yeah.
know, or,
Mm,
"Oh, well, that's getting older, Sherry, so, sorry," or, "Oh, it's wintertime, it's normal," anything like that. So, and I hope my mother's listening right now, because my mother is the worst. She'll go, "Oh, but I'm old, but that's aging," and I'll be like,
mm,
"No." it's not. So hopefully, Mom, you've seen that.
Take note, Mom. Take note. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just looking at Instagram. I don't necessarily see any
No,
comments in regards of what is health.
no, nobody wanted to tell us. And again, everybody's journey's different. And
Yep.
Becky and I both are coaches. We love to come alongside of you and help you with your journey, give you things to work on, and an accountability. Like, sometimes it's just Becky's doing it now with accountability, aren't you, with your exercise
Hmm.
and the blog?
Yep. Yeah, it definitely ends up and takes that step. And again, I'm not perfect about getting, every day uploaded into that. I try at least to, get it put one spot. It may just end up and be a simple picture in my stories on Instagram or something, right? Just for that accountability of checking in, which is originally what I started my Instagram for anyway, was the
Hmm.
accountability, because I didn't have a community where now I have, a great community that supports too. And I go in every day, right? And one of the first questions is, did you get your workout in yesterday? Right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it, right? And we get to have this conversation and have a dialect of, um, community members are even taking interest, and that'll create a ripple effect.
Sure.
So
Sure,
it's
because
it's
they keep
fun.
trying to tell me to get my workout band my ex
Get
yeah,
them get them resistance bands out from under the table.
yeah, like, literally right here, yeah.
We'll get you there. We'll get you
But
there.
we'll get there. We'll
We'll
definitely well,
create
what a
you.
fun
We'll create you a plan.
so for those of you listening, definitely please leave us comments and subscribe. It helps with the algorithms. We would like to get a little further outreach, and good discussion. Oh, should we tell them we have a guest next week?
We do have a guest next week. Dr. Bill is coming on, Dr. Bill Schindler. Speaking of the nutritional side and an ancestral and that realm, Bill is very highly intelligent in regards. He's even started his own modern Stone Age kitchen, where they're doing a lot of cooking in this realm. So I'm excited for the interview. I think it'll be a wonderful interview. So definitely, tune in. You won't want to miss it.
Definitely, definitely. Well, again, thank you, Becky. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It was a fun topic, and it'll give you some food for thought this week about what is health.
Absolutely.